Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me. I am very excited to be back today. It's pretty warm up here in the attic in my house in St. Louis. Roughly 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's beautiful outside. There's this beautiful sycamore outside my room and it's starting to get its leaves yellow. I have my AirPods in because the fan is kind of loud that I'm trying to use to keep myself cool. And quite honestly, my two little dogs are right here in their beds and they're being extra special today. They apparently don't think that 1 2-mile walk is enough. They need more exercise. So they are very excited for me to wrap up so that I can take them for another WALK. We don't want to say that word because they will wake up and get very excited. In fact, one of them is already getting excited because he knows I'm talking about him. I am very excited to show 3 finished objects today. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some podcast news from other makers that I've been enjoying. I have an acquisition from when I was traveling in Washington State and a couple of treat myself moments just for fall love. Where should we start? I think we're going to start with these guys. These guys are going to be easiest to talk about. So these are socks that I've completed. I will definitely insert footage of them on my tiny feet. The yarn is from Nomadic Yarns. I adore her colors. These are what I was talking about in regards to the colors on Yak sock. So I absolutely love her colors on Yak. It kind of makes them a little moody and dramatic, and I just love it. I am my own favorite person to knit socks for because I'm a size 6 women's, so I have very small feet, so they can go very quickly. I don't use a pattern. I just knit 2x2 rib as long as I wanted to. I usually cast on somewhere between 56 and 64 stitches, kind of just depending on my mood. Usually on a size 1. These were done on a size 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter, and I cast on 64 stitches, or at least the first sock was 64 stitches. The second sock, I might have followed my own instructions, might have not. We don't know, but that's okay. So I cast these on in September of 2022. I have a lot of works in progress, people, and I don't always feel like knitting on socks. I was also somewhere for the first sock where I didn't have the instructions with me for the heel, and I probably have a heel flap and gusset memorized, but I don't know. I don't trust myself. I mean, I've been knitting them for over a decade, but I don't know. Trusting myself is something I struggle with in general, so I'm not surprised I didn't trust myself on that. I do that frequently, and it's not so bad on the first sock, but then on the second sock, it's kind of like, Jennifer, what have you done? Why are you doing this to yourself? I cast these on in September 2022, and I just finished them in August 2023, but they are finally done and off the needles. Since I don't use a pattern for these, it means I don't have Knit Companion open, so I don't know exactly how long they took, unfortunately. But yeah, I love them. I forgot the bag with all the things. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I wondered why past Jennifer hadn't written down the name of the colorway and any information about the yarn, and that's because past Jennifer was planning on future Jennifer grabbing the project bags, and I hadn't emptied the project bags, and all the stuff is still in the project bags to show you. So I went and grabbed my project bags, and here we are. Oh, bag from Fuzzy Sheet. I went to high school with Katie, and she is now a maker who does incredible stuff. My favorite are her naughty knitting sacks, which often have something naughty on one side of the fabric, but this is actually an OG Fuzzy Sheet from my little sister. It's got those super cute little hedgehogs all over it. I just adore it. So yeah, Fuzzy Sheet. And in here, I've got how much of my yarn was left. So, you know, that's a pretty good amount of yarn. So pretty. And I've still got some random stitch markers and things that I need to put away. So the color on this is Molly Weasley. You can see that it's Yak Sock from Nomadic Yarns. And that's 437 yards per 100 grams, 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, and 10% nylon. Just adore her colors. So yeah, Molly Weasley, especially her Harry Potter colorways and her Christmas colorways. Probably bought them all. Since I've been on a stash down, I haven't bought from her in a while. Really dying for some of her fall and Halloween colors, but I'm trying to be good. I still have a lot of colorways of hers to knit through, in addition to my other favorite, which is Mustache, and I have a lot of Mustache left to knit through. So so far I've been holding back and resisting buying her yarns. So yeah, super beautiful colors. Just love it. You can tell I'm not big on matching. I really like having fraternal twins. Oh, well, it looks like I kind of started matching. And they just kind of drifted over time. It looks like I put in a heel in a different spot and then they keep on drifting. And sometimes I don't pay attention very well when I'm knitting a toe and I'll just keep knitting and then I'll be like, oops, time to finish. Right? Like, when they're socks just for me, it's not so serious. It's not that serious. We're just making socks here, people. Past Jennifer, way past Jennifer, would have thought that was crazy. But known to have perfectionistic tendencies. But I've been working on that a lot as I've gotten older. So don't have to be perfect with everything that I make. And that's going to be demonstrated incredibly well for the next thing that I show you. My secret sock along Stephen West mystery knit along socks from this summer. I mean, if you're still trying not to spoil the surprise for yourself, go ahead and look away. But I mean, it's been quite a long time. And so I can't imagine, well, no, I'm sure people are still working on them, but I imagine everyone's been spoiled by the surprise at this point. But yeah, look away if you're not interested in seeing this. I started these on July 6th and I finished them on July 31st. They took about 41 hours. I did do the two socks different. So you can see I've got a right sock and a left sock. I love my yarn choice because I think it looks like strawberry ice cream and pistachio ice cream. And I was knitting these in July when it was very summery and they just really hit the spot. They look so stinking adorable on because the way that the toe's made, it just spirals into your foot. I love the cuff and the way the cuff transitions into the pattern of the sock. I made a mistake and I can't remember where I forgot, but on one of the sections I forgot that I needed to follow the left foot instructions instead of the right foot instructions. Fortunately, it's not like gloves where you end up with, you know, two left hands, which I've done before. It's not quite that bad, but it disrupted the pattern a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it. They're just socks for me. I do kind of want to make another pair. No, I really want to make another pair, but that would be incredibly irresponsible with the mystery knit along starting in October. Although, you know, what's one more work in progress when you have 20 works in progress? So yeah, these are adorable. So I had a couple more rows on one foot than the other. When it comes down to the toe, I definitely have more rows on one than the other because I kind of treat all my patterns like mystery knit alongs and I don't always look at ahead in the pattern, and it makes, because I'm a process knitter, it makes it really fun, but it kind of sometimes results in issues. So you can see I have more rows here than I have here because I got carried away on my left foot and was having so much fun that I just kept knitting. I love the cables in the corner of the feet. I love the 2-color Eye of Partridge heel. Yeah, these are so super cute. So super cute. The toe, the way the toe's like this broken rib is stinking adorable. It looks like thermals. Every time I see it, I want to knit something, a sweater out of it, and then go, Jennifer, you don't want to knit a whole sweater with that. You would not make it. I love the cables going through the toe there. So cool. So these are in my, this is one of the first bags I ever got when I started going project bag crazy. You know, if you're going to have multiple projects going, you might as well have multiple project bags. But then you start getting more projects because you have more project bags. And then you're like, well, now I'm out of project bags. Better get more project bags so I can cast out more projects. And just unending. It's just unending. I'm just kidding. There is an end. But it is pretty hilarious how many project bags I have. Okay. So there's 2 colors, main color and secondary color. My first color is that beautiful pink. That again, that looks like strawberry ice cream. I just want to eat it, especially because it's hot up here. And then that beautiful pistachio. So the pink one, this pink one here, is from Yarn Cafe Creations. I love her yarn. And she recently restarted her podcast with her daughter. And they're so cute together. This is in the color Ballerina. You can see I bought that in 2020. Again, since I try to stash down, I try to see if I have something in my stash. But I also like to write the year on them so I know. Like, I don't know, it just makes me feel good that I'm using things from stash. And like, oh, look at me using yarn from 2020. That's just where I am at mentally right now. So that's Ballerina. And that's 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. It's their biscotti base, which is a 4-ply fingering weight, 437 yards and 100 grams. Of course, everything's in the spreadsheet that's linked below in the comments if you want to go look at it. But yeah, I just want to eat this. I just want to eat this. Nom, 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 nom. Nom, 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 nom. I've had a interesting relationship with pink in the past several years. I reached a point in my young life where I didn't want to be identified with pink. I developed very young and it attracted a certain amount of attention. And I felt like pink increased the attention that I was getting, as well as made me feel more feminine than I wanted to be. So back in the 90s, when I was a teenager, I went from being a ballerina to playing soccer with, you know, a little bit of change in the middle. There was some cheerleading in there. There was this whole progression in my life where I just didn't want to relate to that part of myself at the time. And so I really unfriended pink at the time. And I was always been, oh, my favorite color is green or my favorite color is blue. And it was just probably these 3 years ago, I've been working on myself a lot. I think that was one of the interesting things about the COVID cocoon is that I was able to spend a lot of time on self-reflection and working on myself, and I refriended pink, and a lot of that was through refriending my ballerina self and allowing space for her too. You know, it's not her fault that she ended up with huge breasts that looked uncomfortable for ballerinas, and it's not her fault that in the early 90s that body type wasn't great for ballerinas in upstate rural New York. And, you know, none of that was her fault. And she was just doing the best she could. And so I am allowing that part of myself that loves pink to come forward. And this was one of the first ones. So thank you, Yarn Cafe Creations. It's beautiful. So then the second color is from Camp Fiber Yarns. Sorry, I'm still getting good at this camera stuff, all you podcaster pros. This is from Camp Fiber Yarns. The colorway is called Content, C-O-N-T-E-N-T, Content, like happy. Wow, that's cool. That kind of works together, doesn't it? That's so funny how sometimes those things just happen. I purchased it in 2021. It's on the Vibrant 80/20 base. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 365 meters per 100 grams. I think the only thing left to say about that is I knit them on a US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. Like I said, it took about 41%. Took about 41 hours to knit, and the reason I know that is because I use Knit Companion, and even the free version of Knit Companion has a timer where it keeps track of the whole time you have that pattern open, and so you know exactly how long they took you to knit. Yeah, really want to cast on another pair, man. All of you were like, how about you finish that sweater you featured in the first podcast? I know. Oh, look how stubby. Oh, they're so stinking cute. Oh, yeah. I had more rows on my ankle than I did on the second one, too. That's so funny. My last finished object that I want to feature is this thing's a biggie. This thing's a real biggie. So this is the Aurora Cabin Shawl by Stephen West. I think I've told you that I love Stephen West, and I do. I just love him. One of the things I forgot to mention when I was recording yesterday is that when I put this in the bathtub to be washed, which I don't typically use my bathtub, but I had some leftover water, so I wanted to use it up. When I put this in the bathtub to be washed, I immediately noticed that there was color running. The water was immediately turning turquoise. Now, I don't want you to immediately assume that it was the turquoise yarn that was running, because honestly, we just don't know. It could, when you dilute a lot of these dyes, the color can change, and so it could have been a different color than the turquoise, but it was no big deal. I immediately grabbed my Tide color catcher sheets, which I will link down below. I threw 2 of them in the bath water, and it prevented the dye from seeping into any of the lighter colors that are on the shawl. I was also very careful to make sure that I removed it quickly from the water. I probably just let it soak 20 minutes rather than I usually do like an hour, just so that the dye didn't have more time to set in. Yeah, so pleased with it. So thrilled. And thrilled that it's done, because wow, was it a labor of love. I am ready for getting some other things off my needles and kicking off that mystery knit along. It's gonna be super fun. So I'm glad I finished it in time. The final bind off was over 1,000 stitches of I-cord. 1,000 stitches of I-cord, man. So yeah, if that's not love. Just love it. So beautiful. I don't know if I could wear it as a skirt. Not quite. That could be a little weird. So Stephen West mentioned it one time that the man's like 6'2", right? I'm 4'11". So the shawls that he considers blankets are literally just blankets for me. They are gigantic and I would not change a thing. I absolutely adore them. So I have a little, I have like it's technically a clasp for cardigans that you can put that like connects the two sides. I'll have to show that one of these times. I use that a lot for my shawls because it just keeps it on my shoulders. I tend to wear them more wrapped around me like that. Oh, so this is also a story in color choices and you know, my development as a human being and my acceptance of myself and who I am and trusting my own voice. I wanted to use Stash, which I did, but I really wanted to, I was really inspired to make this look kind of like peacock feathers. So, you know, it's got this like cool motif that would have been really cool to make more in a peacock inspired order. However, I don't know, I panicked and I just didn't trust the choices and the order that I had them in. And so I ended up using his advice for, you know, his default color order is typically from you choose the lightest and you move it up into the darkest. And so I went with that default color order. And while I adore the finished object, I still wish I had followed my own advice. Like, why was I not trusting myself and the colors I had chosen and the order I had chosen them for? Blocked out really well. I exaggerated the points so that it would have that beautiful pattern there. I'll insert some footage of me wearing it because it's just, when I wear these Stephen West shawls, I look like a butterfly. Like, it's like I have moth's wings and they're just really spectacular. But let's talk a little bit about the yarn that I used. First, we have Boysenberry. This color is from, see, I can't, there we go. This is from Speckled Finch Studios. That's another company. I just love their colors. They're so beautiful. This is the Hardy Sock in the colorway Boysenberry. This was color B for me. So the Hardy Sock is 75% merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards for 100 grams, and it's a 4-ply fingering. That was my color B. So you can see it. It's in my border, for instance. It's that purple in the border, and you can see strips of it there. This lavender color is called Sugar Plum. So pretty. And I use this for color A, and it's again it's the biscotti base, so it's 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon on a 4-ply fingering weight. Yarn Cafe Creations. So that was color 1. So you can see color A like up in the top there, that lavender color, and then you can see this color B there is the purple. So yeah, the lavender there. Another color that I used is called Hunter. That's this one here. It's more emerald in person. Yeah, emeraldy green. Emerald, I would say emeraldy teal green. That's a little better. That's almost, yeah, that's a little better. Oh, that's funny. It's like that color and like that color. Apparently I like this color. So yeah, this is Hunter. This color is from Hedgehog Fibers. This was the only time I've tried Hedgehog. I bought this one in person Back when I lived up in upstate Illinois at Woolen Company, if you're ever near St. Charles or Elgin, Illinois, Woolen Company is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. I used to go there back when it was the old owners, and the new owners are just have expanded it. It's a giant warehouse now. It's jaw-dropping how beautiful that store is and the selection of yarn they have. So yes, I got to visit once before I moved to St. Louis and bought this yarn. So it's 400 meters per 100 grams, 90% merino, 10% nylon, made in Ireland, which the company I work for is based in Ireland. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's the hedgehog fiber sock. And so that's really, I love this color. This is the color that really made me think peacock, that I really wish I had done a little better job using in combination with other colors. But like, it's that green there. It's the green there. Green just doesn't show up well on video, does it? Makes everything, it looks blue. The next color is Undercurrent. This is also the biscotti fingering from Yarn Cafe Creations. Oh, I love this. It's such a beautiful color. You can see the different variations within it, subtle variations, just so pretty. And yeah, this is called Undercurrent. It's in the biscotti floor ply, 437 yards for 100 grams, Yarn Cafe Creations. So then the last one is called Siren Song. This also, I thought with this blue and this green, I was getting strong peacock. But then I wish I had kind of combined it more with the purple, like, I don't know, like that. I don't know. I love peacock feathers. It's something I'll have to figure out some other time. But yeah, this is called Siren Song. You can tell I used up almost all of it. It's the Hardy Sock from Speckled Finch Studios. And the Hardy Sock is 75% merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards and 100 grams. It's their 4-ply fingering weight. So that's Siren Song. So pretty. So yeah, so those are the 5 colors I used. You can tell I have a significant amount left of quite a few of them. When I have a significant amount left like this, I have a scrap drawer. I'll show you that sometime. I have a scrap drawer, and these will probably get used in another Stephen West scrappy shawl. Although I've been thinking about making scrappy socks potentially. And then I also have a bunch of scrappy blankets that sometimes I use larger amounts for, or maybe I'll use a big amount of it in another shawl and then use it as a scrap in the blanket. But I tend to use up all my scraps pretty consistently. A lot of that was because my ball winder and my Swift used to be a pain to set up. I didn't have a lot of room for them. So it was such a pain in the butt to even try to like wind a ball of yarn that a lot of my shawls, I'll use a third of the yarn in one shawl and then a third of the yarn in the next shawl and a third of yarn in the third shawl. And so it'll be fun sometime to do an episode that shows you a sequence that it walks through the ways that I use the same yarn multiple times in multiple projects, because I used to do that a lot. Now that I've got a dedicated place for my ball winder, you can't see them from here, but they're back by that back window up there. I wind yarn a lot more, and so that's a lot of fun. I was inspired by Amy Pelko and had my husband hang some closet rods on my wall so that I have a shawl wall, and I don't put them all out there because they're too heavy and it'll fall off the wall, but I rotate through them. So this is currently being featured on my shawl wall. Ooh, even the back looks pretty neat. Look at me. Yeah, so I'm thrilled to have that off my needles. Holy cow, was that a lot of knitting. So that was 163 hours per knit companion, and that is probably understating it, because I'm sure there's times where I knit on it and didn't have the knit companion app open because the the rows got really long, as you can imagine. So I'm sure there were times where I was sitting in the car or whatever and didn't have the app open. I started it in November 2022. I have done that 3 years in a row, where as soon as I finish the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, I make it like a week and a half before casting on another gigantic Stephen West shawl. And then I knit it like a mystery knit along. So I don't look ahead in the pattern. So I try to keep it as a little bit of a surprise. But it got a little sloggy. It's got some really cool techniques, especially on these rows here where the colors are interwoven. Really, really cool techniques to learn. But I was kind of over it by the second repeat. And again, why didn't I just change up my yarn order? Like, I need to just trust myself and my own creative voice more, which I am. Jennifer, you are trusting your creative voice more. You started a podcast. You're making progress. Am I right? Yeah. So yes, I started this in November 2022, right after the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, and I just finished this in August 2023. And I have other Stephen West shawls on the needles. So it's not like, yay, this one's over. Like, it freed up brain space. No, it didn't. But I also don't worry about that, because the way I get brain space is if I don't feel like working on a project, I just work on a different project. And I have so many projects going that I've always got something that I enjoy working on. So yeah, I just don't really worry about it. Right? There's a lot of things I've learned through my knitting practice, and you know, that I've had to modify my craft to bring myself more joy instead of making up fake rules for myself that were not bringing me joy. And one of them is I'm not a monogamous knitter, except October of every year when I'm working on the Mystery Knit Along. And only because I never get the clue done before the next clue comes out. Like, if I got the clue done ahead of time, I would absolutely work on other projects, but nope. So the next thing I wanted to show you was the yarn that I purchased when I was in Washington State on my vacation. If you haven't checked that video out, I would recommend it. It was really fun filming on the beach, and of course you get to see sea stacks and some footage of tide pools, and as well as my works in progress. So I feature some of my works in progress. But anyway, while I was in Washington, I had packed myself some socks to work on, but I hadn't packed needles. So I had to stop at a yarn store. Can't remember the name of the yarn store, but I will definitely put the name up here. So while I was at the yarn store, I told myself that I could pick up one skein of souvenir yarn. Actually, that's not how that happened. It was actually a more involved conversation than just, Jennifer, you get one skein of souvenir yarn. So what actually happened is, at first I go in, and of course the store is filled with incredible eye candy, just amazing brands that I haven't seen in person that I was super excited to see. And I'm like picking it up, and I'm picking it up, and I'm picking it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then I just had to sit and think about it for a second. You know, it's so easy for me to get wrapped up into the beauty of it and forget a little bit about my intention behind purchasing the yarn and my own values behind why I'm trying to stash down. So I had an armful of beauties and was like, all right, you have a suitcase, first of all, and there's no way this is all going to fit in a suitcase. So if you could only pick one skein of yarn, what is the one skein of yarn that you would pick? And I realized I had space in my stash for a yellow for contrast color. This is called Mustard Seed. It is absolutely spectacular. The yarn dyer is called Sugar Plum Circus. They're from New Orleans, Louisiana. It is Moody. Like, I think it would have gone nice in my Stephen West Moherino medley that I wanted to be retro moody. I didn't have it yet. It's kind of like got these black undertones, and it's this beautiful yellow, goldish Dijon. It's very Dijon. Oh, it's called Mustard Seed. Brilliant, Jennifer. Well spotted. So I think in my stash, a lot of what I have in fingering weight that's still left is either highly speckled or it's highly variegated. So I've been giving myself room to purchase solid skeins in order to use more of those highly variegated and speckled skeins as contrast. And that is a strategy that's been working out really, really well. I end up using a lot of the older yarns because I have a solid to go with that yarn that was not matching what else was in my stash at the time. So I'm really happy that I pulled myself back a little bit from the brink of buying 5 skeins of yarn and stayed true to my values there. I'm really proud of that. I think just based on the way I've developed as a human that sometimes I can have hoarding tendencies, and so I try to not seek my dopamine that way. And one of the ways that I try to get dopamine instead is to socialize with a friend, or to donate money, or to exercise, or to interact with my dogs. And I've become a lot more aware of that dopamine seeking in the last 3 years, and I just try to replace it with healthier, for me, ways of seeking dopamine. That being said, I still purchase myself treats occasionally. One of the things that I treated myself with this fall as the seasons change were some cute little charms from Sucra Miniatures. Cannot resist her adorable updates, especially when the seasons change. So if there's a fall update or a Halloween update or a Christmas update, I use a ton of progress keepers because I have so many works in progress, and because I like using them almost every time I knit. So for instance, I might not knit on that project for another month, so I like to insert a progress keeper so that I know last time. I just like to see progress, people. I like to see progress. So I'm going to insert some footage of these because they're probably not going to show very well.
So this little guy is the Holiday Harvest Forager Hot Cocoa Cup charm. So cute with that little mushroom. Look at that little mushroom. Looks delicious. This one's a very Sucre Holiday Hot Eggnog Latte charm. Cute, those little heart. So tiny. Then we've got that Funfetti Sprinkle Strawberry Pop-Tart. And the Hot Pumpkin Latte to-go charm. So cute. You can see the Sucra Miniatures. They have an Etsy store and they have a website.
So those are my acquisitions. And yeah. So the last segment that I want to share with you today is what I'm calling the podcast roundup. These are makers whose podcasts I've watched just recently, and some of the things that they've shared that have inspired me that you can't miss either. I get this energy from watching these podcasts, and I can't always just cast on all the things. And so I'm hoping that this is something that I can channel my energy into, and it also pays it forward to those makers, because it's just incredible, this community we have. There's so many incredibly talented knitters and designers and content creators, and we're just surrounded by them. I'm never going to take it for granted. You know, I've been knitting for almost 20 years, and this community, while it existed, was really hard to find because there was not a YouTube community. It needed to be in person. It needed to be around yarn stores. So it just wasn't as accessible as it is today. And I'm just so thrilled and happy to be part of that community and to have that access that I have to all of you. So thank you for all of you who participate in these communities. So first, if you haven't seen it yet, Taylor at Wool Needles Hands did an episode on peanut baskets. That is probably the funniest knitting I've ever seen. It was such funny content. She's been really letting her personality shine recently, and it's just been so enjoyable. She's been just so funny, and her editing's been changed up, and the way that episode came through was it was hilarious. If you haven't seen it yet, please watch it. And what it features is peanut baskets, and they're not meant to keep your yarn organized. She'll explain that, but they can be repurposed to keep your yarn organized. And I thought it was really interesting that at the same week, Nitty Natty she had an episode that featured her float tote. And if you haven't heard of it yet, her float tote is a crochet pattern where you can actually make your own bag that has 2 pockets to keep your yarn separated. It's really smart. I think she's got a 2-ball version and a 3-ball version, and it's really worth checking out if yarn organization is something that you struggle with or that you're interested in. Then I have several that I just want to feature because their content is so stinking gorgeous. Like drop your knitting gorgeous, where you can either knit something and stockinette in the round that you don't have to look at, or you just have to put your knitting down to look at it. One of those is Young Folk Knits. Her aesthetic is so spectacular. But what I also really love is that this episode, she was talking about how someone commented that her aesthetic's so beautiful, and she said, it's just what I like. And I found that so inspirational for myself. Just surround yourselves with the things you like, and if the right people will find you. And it was such a good timely reminder for me that, I could feel a little vulnerable about what I'm doing right now. And it was such a reminder, like, don't worry about it. Your people will come. What you like, just do what you like. Another one was Knit My Way Home. Oh my gosh. She did an episode on her travels in Alaska. And yeah, it was drop your knitting gorgeousness. I was really inspired by her to do my beach video that included some of my travel footage, because I just really enjoyed watching that happen. I couldn't knit during her episode. I just had to watch it. It was so beautiful. Another one that was like that is called Mandarin's Knitting Vlog. It's just this beautiful scenery of her daily life set to music. And it was like poetry. It was so beautiful, and gorgeous and peaceful. And it was I just adored it. And similarly, Flannel and Pearls, I'm sure at this point, if you haven't seen him, okay, fine. Maybe you haven't seen him. I shouldn't make judgments about what people have or haven't seen. But he started a podcast, and you want to talk about poetry. First, you need to join his Instagram and watch his posts. His accessibility descriptions of his photos are poetry themselves. Like, he should have a book where he publishes the photo and his accessibility caption. I love how he includes scents. It's just spectacular. And his podcast is no less than that. It's just visual poetry instead of written poetry. It's just so beautifully done. I loved his Knit With Me section. I have done something similar in my beach video because it's just something I really enjoy when knitters include that. I just loved sitting with him and knitting. And I hope you enjoy that with me as well. Oh, I don't know if you saw this, but guess what? Earth Tone Girl is back. After a 3.5-month hiatus, she's back, and it was such a relief to see her. You just wonder what's going on, and you just realize you missed someone. Soothing voice, incredible color choices, so knowledgeable, wonderful tutorials. It's been so nice to see her again. And last but not least on my inspiration list for the week is Carol Feller. She and the yarn store that she's at has recently re-highlighted a shawl called Neon Skyline and selected some color choices for it. And I came this close to casting that one on and said, Jennifer, again, you have no business casting that on. Plus, I'm a little tired. I got sick while I was in Washington when I came back, and so I'm still recovering from that. And I don't know, my cast on energy is a little low right now, which is probably a good thing, right? How about some finish it energy instead of some cast on energy? So yeah, that's the podcast roundup for this week. I hope you'll find a new one. I love finding new podcasts and finding new people to inspire me. And I hope that you found a little inspiration yourself here today. As I've shared before, it is the deepest hope of my soul to pay forward a little bit of the inspiration and energy that these makers give to me. And I hope it makes its way to you. So I'm going to find a tall glass of something to drink and get out of this hot attic. And I hope you have a wonderful week. It's starting to cool off. Hopefully you'll get to wear all your knits. Take care. Bye-bye.
Said that you've been hurt one too many times before. Ended up staring in the bathroom mirror, crying on your bedroom floor. Baby, you can take my word, you haven't gotta hurt no more. Things about to get much better. I wanna make this forever. I wanna make this forever. Said that you felt lost 100 times before, going in circles in a